Hello guys, today I wanted to talk about dissociation. So what is dissociation? Dissociation is a strategy we can use when we are feeling overwhelmed, when we are feeling like we are in danger. Dissociation usually happens when the body feels like there's nothing else it can do but separate itself from reality. That way it protects us from not feeling too much. So there are 4 types of dissociation. Each type has a spectrum within. You can have it or experience it very mildly or very severely, and you can actually experience multiple and all at the same time. Okay? So the first one is amnesia. And amnesia can happen with a working memory, short term, and with a long-term memory. Either or both. Okay, so for example, if I'm talking about my short-term memory or working memory, I'm talking about being very forgetful. Where did I put my keys this morning? Did I close the door? Did I turn off the stove? Did I do my homework? So all these things are working memory, short-term memory that we can forget, right? And that's part of our amnesia. Now, if it's long-term, we can forget big portions of our childhood, including traumatic events, right? So we can have either flashbulb memories, we can see the trauma just like it was happening right now, like a picture, or we can completely erase it if we're using amnesia, or erase big portions of it, right? And in reality, it's not that you're really erasing the memory, it's that you were not there to begin with, meaning your body kind of said, oh, I'm not here. My body will stay, but my mind is going to go somewhere else. So when you're losing your keys, right, when you're forgetting where you put your keys, when you're forgetting if you did your homework or not, it's not that you're actually forgetting it. I know that what I'm saying might not make sense, but think about it this way. You're not forgetting. Your mind is not there. Your mind is somewhere else as you're leaving the keys where they don't belong, or forgetting to close the door, or forgetting to turn off your stove. Your mind is just somewhere else. Just like in the long-term memory, when you're forgetting long or big portions of your life, is because during those years of life, there's so much trauma, you were so overwhelmed that your body just decided, you know what, it's better that the body's there, but the mind, somewhere else. All right. So the second one is called derealization, and this is where we feel like the world is fake. There's different ways that I've seen people experience this. Some people feel like time is really fast, time is really slow, like there is it feels foggy, or it may actually feel like, oh my goodness, the world just feels fake, maybe like we're in a video game or something, or people are fake, and not fake like they're lying to me, like fake like they might be robots or monsters or something like that. Again, it's a spectrum. Okay, so you can have just the feeling of time being fast or slow, or being like in a fog, but you can also feel like the world feels very fake and people are very fake, and this can get really, really severe, right? So super mild or super severe. When it comes to the third one is depersonalization, right? So this is where my body doesn't feel like my body, right? So again, I told you there was spectrum. So very lightly, I may feel like there's something like waiting to come out and I'm enraged, like it's gonna come out and just I feel so angry. Or imagine that you're at a meeting and you're feeling really overwhelmed, and you're sitting there and your body is just like this, like I am, but inside you're like backing up. All right, you feel like you're backing up. You feel like there's like a part of you that doesn't want to be there and is backing up, just pulling away from that meeting. All right, that is one level, right? Obviously, as we get more severe or moderate, right? Moderate or severe, then we can feel like maybe I look at myself in the mirror, I might not recognize myself in the mirror. I may feel like I just don't look like myself today. I don't feel like myself. And even further than that, if we're having a really really traumatizing experience, we may even separate ourselves from our body and see our body from the outside. So we have this happen to a lot of people who've had physical and sexual abuse, seeing themselves outside, looking at what's happening to them. Okay, so again, it's dissociation is there to protect us, so the person doesn't have to be there while their body's getting abused. And the fourth one is personality confusion. I actually find this one really interesting because people usually think that this is like really only extreme, like they've seen the movie Split and they think that's how it happens when people have multiple personalities and is this like fantastical thing. Now, if you're having amnesia and personality confusion and depersonalization and derealization altogether, you may have extreme changes of behavior, extreme changes of personalities. This can happen with extreme changes even in the symptoms of different diagnoses that the person may have. However, when we're talking about personality confusion by itself, I'm gonna take you like really mildly, an adult having a fit of anger and they are just like throwing a tantrum. This is a regression, this is a personality confusion. The person is acting as a younger version of themselves. Another fun way to see it too, and I know I said fun, just keeping it light because it can be really severe. When a person, for example, is a cop, or a person is a football player and they put on their outfits, right? It's like you're putting on your superpower and all of a sudden you can do a lot of things that you wouldn't necessarily do if you were not wearing that suit, right? So again, that's still part of it. It's very light, very mild. Another example would be you go to a bar, you have a drink, and you may act very differently. For some people with a drink, it may make them act looser, but for some people that actually dissociate while they're drinking, they may act very differently, like a completely different person, right? Again, when we're going to a more severe side, I may act really differently depending on what triggered me. And this all goes back to, again, what's being triggered for me. So if somebody treats me in a certain way and that triggers trauma when I was 5, and perhaps I start acting in that way because acting in that way actually protects me from what's going on, right? Or maybe somebody triggers me and the trauma from when I was a teen is coming out and I start acting in that age again because acting in that age protected me somehow in some way. This is definitely not a full explanation. Dissociation is pretty significant. Right, so how will it look like when somebody is dissociating? How will it look like when somebody dissociates often, right? And this is actually very interesting because there's variation depending on your attachment style, which maybe I could do another video on that later on. But what you can see, for example, is a person drifting off. So you're talking to the person's just like in La La Land, right? And so this is a person that is dissociating. They're not, perhaps, you see this a lot with, I'll just talk a little bit about dismissive attachment and anxious attachment. A person who has an anxious attachment wants a lot of connection and may respond really with big emotions. The person with a dismissive attachment doesn't want to deal with those big emotions. So you see this in relationships where the person who has the anxious attachment really wants to talk about the problem, and the person with a dismissive attachment is just drifting away. And you see a person who's just like looking to the side or even looking at the person, but they're just like staring into this like emptiness, right? So that's one way. Another way that you can see is people, when it's a little bit more severe, you'll think that a person is lying all the time, right? It's like, but you did this, but like I saw you doing this, and the person's like, no, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So that is dissociation, right? Where the person really believes that they didn't do that, they were not there, they forgot it, remember amnesia, and so the person that actually saw the other person doing this, whatever it was, is going to be very frustrated because like, I saw you doing it, how can you be lying to my face, right? And this happens a lot, especially with children that have been in the foster care system for a long time. There's a lot lot of dissociation, so you will see a lot of parents with this specific frustration. Another thing that you may notice when people are dissociating, again, depending on the severity, when we're talking about more severe side, you may see people who are hearing voices. You may hear people that have relationships that change so often and the parents cannot keep up with who was your friend, who's not your friend. You may see people that, again, create fantastical stories. Another thing that may make parents really frustrated, and even spouses, is the difficulty of learning from consequences. So when people dissociate, it's hard to learn from consequences because you weren't even there to begin with. And remember, your mind is somewhere else, right? And so you see a parent really frustrated. It's like, I've given the consequence, I keep on giving you more severe consequences, and the child is just not learning, keeps on making the same mistake over and over again. There's a dissociation. I'm going to make mistakes again and again and again. It's going to be really difficult for me to learn from that mistake. Another thing that can happen is you have a huge fluctuation in grades. For example, in school, you have somebody who can have straight A's one week and then straight F's the next week again, and then that's part of a dissociation. There was perhaps a trigger at home, or any kind of emotional trigger, anything that could have triggered, again, the dissociation, and now you have a person who cannot concentrate, who is not present in class, right? Again, you have a fluctuation too at work, right? Or at home. So this is very important to know. You may see a lot of daydreaming. You may have a person who gets back homework they forgot that they did. You may have a person who looks or acts very young for their age. Or that may fluctuate too, right? You may have a person who at one moment is speaking to you in a baby voice, right? And at another moment is like very stern, right? So you have that fluctuation, and it doesn't have to be something great, right? So we do have levels, we do have significant changes, but it also can be very mild, and some that most people wouldn't notice. Only a person that really truly knows the person that has experienced dissociation would be able to identify this, all right? A lot of people who experience dissociation don't know themselves. I would say most people that experience dissociation don't know that they're experiencing dissociation. And so, of course, their family members, their friends, even less, right? Again, it's so severe that you cannot not see it. But for the most part, people dissociate and people will not know that they're dissociating. All right, so again, this is just the top of all the information. There is so much information on dissociation. If you have any questions, I would be interested to hear them. All right, thank you.